Alright, what is going on, guys? My name is Leon Master. Welcome back to another Overwatch League video, and today, guys, I'm going to be bringing an interesting video for you guys today. It is players we need to be looking out for next season of the Overwatch League. Now, with a lot of teams obviously getting a lot of new players and all around just revamping their rosters and completely different all around, I think this is going to be a fun video to talk about, and players, honestly, I think we need to be watching out for next season. So I decided to write a player for every team in the Overwatch League, obviously except for LA Valiant. They are making their new roster right now. So I'm going to be telling you guys a player from every team we need to be looking out for. Let's go ahead and start off with the first team. The Atlanta Reign is the team I want to talk about. And honestly, you guys may think I'm going to say KSP, or Kai, obviously is his name today, or Pelican, but no. I'm going to say Iris, actually. I think Iris is going to be a player we need to be looking out for. Iris is going to be someone that will finally get a lot more playtime this season. Obviously, he was signed last season to get playtime over Dogman, but it was already too late in the season to really change up anything right now. And now they've had Iris for the Atlanta Reign this season. And if we look back on his streams, we look back on his Contenders days, this guy was a top performer every game back in Contenders, and even when you watch the stream, he has a lot of potential, honestly, for the Atlanta Reign, and all around being a top flex sport next season. It's a player we honestly forget about, but this guy has a lot of potential next season, and it's definitely someone we need to be looking out for. Then onto the Boston Uprising, a more recent signing from this team. It is going to be Valentine. I think Valentine is someone we really need to keep our eye on next season for this team, because Valentine, if we look at his Contenders days, was a top performer, and I'm excited to see what he does with the Boston Uprising next season, next to players like I'm37, Stan1, Faith, and even Myeonbong. With this new team that he has around him, obviously he already has some pieces he's played with, like Faith and I'm37, but Valentine, I like to see what he does in the Overwatch League with a new team around him. I think he has a lot of potential next season for this team. Now onto the Chengdu Hunters. I've talked about this player a lot, and I really want to see this guy perform next season. It is going to be Gaga. I think Gaga is someone we actually need to keep our eye on next season, because he's going to help this team massively, and I hope he does get this playtime. If we look at his Contenders days that he has just been one of the best main tanks in Chinese Contenders, and now he's going to be joining the Chengdu Hunters, and I definitely think he will have a massive upgrade to this Chengdu Hunters team. He will be a massive part of this team, and hopefully he does start over Ameng, because he does have a wide pool of main tanks. He can play all the main tanks at a high level, and I love to see what he does with this new team that he has in the Overwatch League with the Chengdu Hunters, being coached in the league and just playing in the league all around, because playing in the league compared to Contenders is a whole different game almost, and I love to see what he does. Now onto the Dallas Fuel. That player I wrote down, probably no one would expect, is going to be Repel. Actually, I'm going to write Repel down, because if we looked at the Nexus Cup recently, Repel actually got the starting time over Fielder. Now, Fielder did play like 1 or 2 maps, but Repel coming in may be way different than he was on the Houston Outlaws. Being coached by Rush, also aid to being a support coach, I think Repel has a lot of potential this year, with Jexay once again beside him like the Houston Outlaws, and just a whole better team around him compared to the Houston Outlaws. I think Repel has a lot of potential this next season. Hopefully he comes through with the potential, because he had a lot of potential back in Season 2 with the Vancouver Titans, and even on the Houston Outlaws, but he was poorly coached on the Houston Outlaws, and hopefully him on the Fuel is going to be completely different. Now to the Florida Mayhem. The player I wrote down is going to be OG. I think this is the year OG really needs to prove himself, and it's something we need to be looking out for, because OG has had a lot of chances in the league. Now he's going to be joining the Florida Mayhem, full Korean roster, no language barriers, coached under Kuki, who was a main tank and a player, and he understands what the stress is. So hopefully Kuki can help OG turn out to be one of the best main tanks in the league. Also playing beside Gangnam Jin, Slime, and Gargoyle. I hope OG really proves himself this year, because this is honestly probably his last year, because a lot of teams and a lot of people, like the fans, knows how much potential OG has, but he just hasn't hit it. We've seen occasional things with Season 1 and Season 2 with the Fuel, but it hasn't been consistent. Now to the Guangzhou Charge. This one was a hard one to write down, but a player that stood out to me when I was making this list had to be Mandu, because we have not seen Mandu perform on the NYXL. We've seen him play in the Nexus Cup, and it's been solid performances, and I'm excited to see what he does with this team next season for the Guangzhou Charge, and hopefully he has those performances we love to see last season with the NYXL, and he'll actually come through with them on the Guangzhou Charge, and hopefully he has a good year. Then onto the Hangzhou Spark. This one was also really hard to write down, because we cannot predict what their roster is going to turn out to be, so someone I wrote down personally for me is going to be Bernard. Now the reason I wrote Bernard down is because obviously we already know he is a top tier performer back from the London Spitfire. Now he's going to be joining the Hangzhou Spark, and I'd love to see his play will improve, or go down on this new team. I think it will improve because it's going to be a whole new team that's going to be completely different from the London Spitfire, and I think he'll be a lot better, if not, and probably be into the conversation with the top 5 off-tanks in the league, and let's see that come through. Let's see it come through from Bernard. Now to the Houston Outlaws, I wrote down Jubi. I think Jubi, with myself, we all didn't like the signing at first, but now that it has settled down a little bit, I think Jubi has something here. I think Jubi could be potentially a solid main support coming in for this team, and I think we're just doubting him right now, but as soon as the league starts, I think he'll come through and be a solid main support. I don't think he'll be insane main support. I don't think he'll be the top tier main support we're looking for, but a solid one that will really stand out with the Houston Outlaws, and it's someone we honestly need to keep our eye out for next season because I think he has a lot of potential. Then on to the London Spitfire, it is going to be Blazin, and I definitely think this is also Blazin's year to prove himself, kind of like OG, because he has had multiple years now in the Overwatch League. We have Boston, we have had Houston, and now we're having London Spitfire. And I think this is Blazin's last year, and honestly, his only chance right now. And he really needs to prove himself with all the projectile heroes in the game and maybe some flexibility here and there that Blazin can bring into the next team. Now, obviously, we've seen his Kree. It's not good. We've seen him play some hit scan. It's not good. He has a decent soldier from what I remember in the past, but will he play soldier? Probably not. But Blazin has been an interesting player throughout his entire time in the Overwatch League. I will say his greatest year so far has been on him on the Boston Uprising with the Brig, but other than that, Blazin has had a interesting couple of years in the Overwatch League, and he really needs to prove himself this year with the London Spitfire. Then on to the Los Angeles Gladiators. This one's got to be Kevster. Kevster, it was cut short last season. Kevster was starting to be the best flex DPS player we had last season. Then the season closes, and now we have to wait to see Kevster once again. And I think Kevster is going to be a player that's going to be fun to watch next season, and we need to look out for him because he's going to come through out of nowhere probably once again and dominate on this team with new signings as well. You have Muse, you have Moth, you have this new signings around you that's going to make Kevster better, and I'm just excited to see how this turns out for Kevster all around and also with the Los Angeles Gladiators. Now to NYXL, and this one is going to be Guangboon. Guangboon is the player I've been hyping up about, and a lot of people honestly aren't really talking about him that much, but this guy is crazy when it comes to the hit scan play on Widow, on Ashe, and maybe even some more. These are the two heroes that are really good for Guangboon, and hopefully they utilize it a lot next season, and maybe even more. Maybe I've not seen a lot more Guangboon than I need to be seeing, but Guangboon honestly has a lot of potential for NYXL. Now to Paris Eternal. This one was also weird because it's a whole new roster, of course, and the one I wrote down is going to be Naga. I think Naga has a lot of potential this season. I've always wanted to see Naga in the league, and hopefully he comes through this season with the Paris Eternal. He's very flexible on all the projectile heroes. I don't think he'll be one of the best players next season, but I really think he'll be in a conversation for being one of the better flex DPS players in the league, and I hope Naga does hit that, and I hope he has a good year. I really do, because he's not going to win. Paris Eternal's not going to win this season, but I do hope Paris has a good year. Now to the Philadelphia Fusion, I wrote down Mono. With the team looking like they're done with the offseason, Mono is still a weird player to look at when it comes to this roster. They still have a very, very aggressive roster when it comes to this next season, and Mono is not, as we've seen in the past from his NYXL days, is not insanely aggressive player. He's very passive, but maybe he can switch it up with 9K obviously being on a part of the coaching staff, and maybe he can be very aggressive. And I'd love to see that side of Mano come out and see what he's like being super aggressive with the team he has around him. Now on to the San Francisco Shock, I wrote down FD God. I think FD God is going to be a fun player to watch next season for the Shock, because obviously a lot of people are saying he's going to be bad. He's going to turn this team upside down and not do good. But I'm thinking the complete opposite. I think FD God is going to open up Shock to a lot of different playstyles. FD God is very aggressive, and I love to see what they turn him into next season for the Shock and all around the team, because I think the main reason they signed FD God was to have a more aggressive playstyle this next season, very different compared to normal, and obviously the most recent signings they've had of Glister, Nero, and all things like that. I'm excited to see what Shock does, and it's going to be a lot with FD God, and I think we need to watch how FD God plays with the Shock next season and see how he changes this team. Now on to Solo Dynasty, I wrote down Creative, and this one was honestly just based off what we saw with the Nexus Cup. Creative looked completely different than what he looked in Season 3. Now, obviously in Season 3, Creative really impressed us as soon as he started over Bedosin, and as soon as he played in the Nexus Cup, this guy is looking like a top 5 flex support in the league right now. Now, obviously, he didn't play a lot of teams, but what he did play in the Nexus Cup was really impressive, and I'm excited to see what he does next season for the Seoul Dynasty, and hopefully he helps his team out a way more next season. Now on to the Shanghai Dragons, and I wrote down Fate, because Fate was honestly an interesting signing from the Shanghai Dragons at the start, but if we look at the Nexus Cup, honestly, if you took the names away from Shanghai Dragons, I would still think Fearless was playing for this team. But Fate joining the Shanghai Dragons, looking really close to Fearless's playstyle. I love to see how Fate plays next season for this team and what Moon does to Fate. Fate's looking really good this next season, and I hope he does come through, and let's just keep our eye out for him. Then on to the Toronto Defiant. A lot of people honestly aren't talking about this player, and we need to talk about him way more. It is going to be Nice. I've seen a lot of people think Nice is not that good, but Nice is going to be good for the Toronto Defiant, especially the team he's on right now. Obviously, it's Contenders days. We're kind of up and down, but he's good. I promise you, Nice is going to be good. He is a Tracer player. I've seen a lot of people say Toronto Defiant needs a Tracer player. This guy can play Tracer, just a lot of people are not seeing it. Nice all around, is very flexible. He can play hit scan, he can play projectile. He's really good, and I think under this new team he's on the Toronto Defiant, Nice is going to do a lot of good things for this team. Now to the Vancouver Titans. You probably think I'll put a new player down, but no, I'm putting a player who's already been on this team. It is going to be Dalton. I think Dalton is now going to be almost a new player, actually, what it's going to look like next season for the Vancouver Titans, because now they have a flex DPS player who's going to be Taro. Don't know how good he is, honestly. We haven't seen him since 2019, but Dalton will finally stop playing the flex DPS. He will not be forced onto this role. He will be playing what he's known for, the hit scan, and what he played in Season 3 was fantastic. His hit scan play was so good in Season 3. Now we're looking at Season 4, and I think Dalton is going to be one of the best hit scans next season. Obviously, it's going to be rough because Vancouver Titans will probably be near the end, but maybe not. You know, we have Taro. They've had signings. They've had some upgrades, honestly, to the roster. Are they massive? No, but they're going to help this team out a lot with Dalton playing the hit scan, with Taro being the flex DPS, with Fire being the main support, and Fried being the off tank. Now we have Washington Justice, and this player you probably did not expect for me to say, but Washington Justice, we need to be looking out for is going to be Closer. Now, the reason I put Closer down is obviously with the Justice saying many good things about Closer in tryouts, and I love to see that come through with this team. Obviously, we cannot hear the comms when it comes to competitive Overwatch, especially the Overwatch League. It's been a while since we've heard comms back in Season 1, but Closer, we need to see if he's improved or he's been the same since Dallas Fuel. I love to see if he's changed his Lucio style. I love to see if he's changed his Mercy style, his BAP, his break. I love to see what has happened there, and I want to see if I can tell that his shot calling has really helped his team out a lot for the Washington Justice. That's what I want to see, and I hope to see that as well. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for me. If you guys want to stay more in tune of Overwatch League news and Overwatch League stuff in general, don't forget to subscribe down below. Also, don't forget to join my Discord down below as well, and don't forget to follow my Twitter and my Twitch, and don't forget to hit that bell, and don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.